Hi everyone, and welcome back to our garden podcast. Now, last week we talked about the differences and we had a bit of a battle between tropical and cottage gardening. This week we're going to be talking about or trying to find similarities. So do you think there's similarities between tropical and cottage gardening? If you do, then pop a comment on there and we'll have a look at that and get back to you as well. But we're going to try and find some common ground today, or try.
Try and get along.
To try and find some similarities between the two, of which we think we found quite a few. So
it's surprising how many we found, actually, isn't it? When we put our heads together and stopped fighting it out and actually, had a good chat and a constructive chat rather than just ripping 10 bells out of each other. So we made a list and we're going to go through some of what we've found. Talk about almost bridging the gap between tropical gardening and cottage gardening. Not so much all similarities, but maybe figuring out whether the two could coexist or
what works well in both as well, isn't it? Because certain things I've taken from your garden and vice versa that work well in both, I think. So things like water and ponds, we've both got them in our gardens. We can agree on that.
We can, we're going to agree on water.
Both got fish as well. You might have slightly larger ones, but
I think even if you've got a wildlife pond or like a show koi pond like I've got as well, I think the two both are important. I mean, we get wildlife in the koi pond as well, which is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, you get frogs in there, don't you?
Yeah, it's not great for the koi, but you can't stop it. But we have got, I think, 3 wildlife ponds now, what I call swamp ponds.
Yeah.
You've got the same, 3 or 4 now?
4 now, yes. I've got the fish pot, the goldfish pond. I've got the new wildlife pond and the 2 original tiny little ones, which actually bought us newts and frogs in the first year we were there.
Stagnant puddles.
Stagnant puddles, but there's wildlife in there.
No, you're not wrong.
So 4 ponds in total now. So definitely water, ponds, streams, things like that. Moving water, still water.
Yeah, I know with the jungle. Where the koi pond is and the waterfall, if you've seen the other videos of the waterfall, have a look if you haven't. The waterfall is, it falls away from the jungle. So when you're up in the jungle, you can't actually see the waterfall itself, but you can hear it. And that sound of running water, it's a great addition to a rainforest jungle garden as well. So
it is,
I wouldn't be without the waterfall.
It is. We're getting on so far.
We are. This is great. Much better than the last one.
So next one?
I think with the waterfall, with damp rock comes mosses and self-seeding ferns and things like that. Now, we've got a lot in the jungle garden, as have you in your cottage as well, haven't you? So it's one of those things that if you have got rock, the moss will come. Yeah,
and although ferns, I suppose, aren't traditionally like a cottage garden plant, actually, because I've got that big shady border, it's something that works well alongside the cottage style, and I'm going to be adding more and more. And specifically around the pond areas, that I think the ferns look great, overhanging the wildlife ponds and stuff. Even the fish ponds with ferns around them, they look good in a cottage garden environment.
You've got logs and bits and bobs in amongst the rock, as have I actually, to be fair. And again, the moss grows on those. They're great for wildlife as well, because as they break down, they're little mini ecosystems, aren't they? So rocks and logs. Yeah, I think they work well in both again. I think you're right. This is great.
Yeah. Wow, we're actually getting on. I'm glad it's me next, because as you know, I love a bit of rusty metal.
You love a bit of rusty metal, don't you?
There's something about rusty metal I just can't get enough of. I just think it's great. And I think the more garden shows we've been to, or the more garden shows I've been to over the last couple of years, there's more and more stalls that are like specifically just rusty metal, and
it's pricey, though, isn't it?
It is pricey for rusty metal, but I think there's something really nice about it. And again, it works great in my garden as a backdrop, as little features here and there. I've gone overboard on it. I've got like rusty old rollers and the mowers.
It does suit the cottage style. And when we did a trip to Eden project last year, and I don't know if you guys have been, but if you have, you'll know, in the rainforest section, they've got these jungle shacks and things like that. And they're clad in like rusty galvanised steel.
Corrugated?
Which looks really, really good, especially with the bananas and the big leaves in front of it. And it's just, it's a real nice addition.
It's an excellent backdrop, isn't it?
Yeah, I've made a few jungle signs and things for my shack after having been there.
Yeah.
And they look great.
Really honestly, I love it. I think it looks great. And like I said, I've got the old rusty roller. I've got the northeast southwest sign. I've got the mower. And I was clearing out I made a den the other day. There's a video on that if you want to look back. And as I'm clearing out the floor in the den, there's like rusty old bits and pieces that I've obviously put there for a later date, and I'm not pulling all this rust. I'm like, there it is. Yeah,
kids' toys and stuff.
No, I think it works well in both as well. So, yep.
Another good thing, or very important thing, is layers and depths in borders. Now, this is important for both, and especially for me with my rainforest garden, because you don't go to a jungle and there's no depth in borders. You know, if you don't get that depth and that height and the layering right, you just don't get the effect you want. And it's the same with cottage as well, in that you really do need a minimum of 3 to 4 foot borders, I think, to make that impact.
Yeah, I would completely agree. The only thing I would say is your kind of depth and height is a lot different to mine. I mean, the height of your plants, your tetrapanax, your palms and things like that are always going to be a lot taller than my little cottage garden plants. However, so you've created an amazing canopy even in 4 or 5 years, haven't you? Which then your underplanting goes in and looks great. I'm never going to have that kind of height in my borders.
You don't necessarily, you won't need to underplant, will you? Because
no,
it's, although you've got layering, you have, like say, you haven't got that canopy that you're going to need to underplant.
So although the depths in borders is definitely important, I think there is a slight difference with regards to the canopy. But again, you haven't really got borders. Yours is just one mass kind of jungle with walkthroughs, isn't it? Really, but it's definitely important to both.
Absolutely. Plant-wise, with the plants, I know we've mentioned ferns, but flowers and things like that. Now, I mentioned in other podcasts that mine isn't it's not a tropical garden. I mean, it is because in respect that I grow tropical plants, but it's what I call a rainforest garden and a jungle garden. Now, I don't have flowers and flamboyant kind of plants in there, do I? When I do introduce plants with flowers, they're very small and dainty, like the salvias. I've tried verbena, which is again used as a cottage plant in previous years. I didn't like it. I took it out. It didn't suit the style, but it looked okay, didn't it? The verbena. Like I say, salvias, they're used a lot. Begonias, small flowered begonias, they all work well in both gardens as well. So I think there is a bridge between the two.
I mean, you're never going to grow a sweet pea in your jungle, are you?
Absolutely not. No.
But let's not go down that road. We've already done that episode. But what I'm saying is, there's definitely flowers that you would look at in my garden and think actually that would work really well under the canopy or in the entrance or even the space in your front garden. You could use that space.
Well, this year we're trying climbing beans, so there'll be again small little flowers, and then after they've flowered, hopefully we'll get the pods. And some really interesting bright coloured pods as well. Different varieties that I'm going to grow in the backs of the borders and in amongst the laurels and things like that. Just for a bit of interest. So
last year so vice versa, I got an ensete which did really well. We had the canna in there. I've now got a little tetrapanax which Chris assures me is going to grow absolutely massive and cover up the whole den area this summer. But I've bought stuff taken influence from Chris garden, tropical garden, into my cottage. And actually, last year I had my tomato plant growing up behind the ensete. I had my canna in amongst my alstroemeria. Yeah, I did. Yeah, because I've got the alstroemeria. Yeah, so that was all in the same border, and it worked really, really well. Got the depth in border slightly wrong in terms of not quite knowing how big things were going to grow and at what pace.
It's a learning curve, isn't it?
But definitely a learning curve. It can work 100%.
Right, I've done a couple of questionables and kind of answered my own questions. Now, the large foliage plants in amongst prairie type plants and your daisy type looking plants, things like that, I think it can work. And you've proved, having just said what you'd said, that if it's done properly and you make some adaptations this year, moving forward, won't you? I think it really can work with the large foliage and the small dainty flowers. I think it's, like you say, that ensete with your alstroemeria, although it's not my favourite plant. No, but it can work. Feeding can be a bit of a problem though. I was thinking back, I mean, a lot of yours are, like I say, prairie plants, and a lot of them are drought tolerant, like the grasses and things like that, whereas the cottage ones demand quite a lot of moisture. And a lot of feed as well, because they're huge leaves. They do. So there can be. But then it got me thinking about, the more like the tropical palms where they don't need so much feed and they don't need so much moisture, and they are a bit more drought tolerant and prefer to be drier rather than more moist.
It's something we're going to be battling with over the next 10, 20 years with the impact of climate change, isn't it?
Every year
and having to adapt, learn what works, what doesn't work in your garden. And again,
one year we're getting mass rainfall, the next year we'll be on.
I think it goes back to the basics of gardening, is knowing your garden, isn't it? Like we said before, know your soil type, know where the sun comes up, where it goes down, what gets the light areas, where's the shade. Knowing your garden obviously is so important in terms of basics, and build on that. And again, you just need to be adaptable and willing to kind of accept that certain things might just not work in your garden, full stop.
And you can be successful for 2 or 3 years with a certain plant and then it just give up on it.
Yeah.
If you have a bad summer or a bad winter, and
But there's always another plant.
There's always more plants.
Yeah. Especially when you live half a mile from the garden centre.
Exactly that.
Right, enough similarities?
I think so, yeah, we did quite well that, considering we were ripping each other's heads off.
It makes me very uncomfortable getting along with you. But it's what it is.
It's weird agreeing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the last one where we were fighting it out between the differences, pop back and have a look, because it's quite a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the best one we've done, actually.
Yeah,
it's well worth a watch. So, yeah, but for now, that is the similarities discussed, and we'll see you again in very soon. Next week. Yeah. See you soon, guys.
See ya.
Bye.